Veronica.
Michael.
David.
Navi.
Ross.
Linda.
Adrian.
Josh. Dean.
And Bob.
Hi everyone, good to see you all.
See you, Bob.
And you all know what it is we talk about. They call it non-duality. And we really recognise non-duality. I mean, as they describe it, as one without a second. Not two. Only that. The one essence of pattern, shapes, forms, expresses as everything. And if it's only that, recognise that each and every one of you in this room is that. Now what is there to seek? What is there to become? Anyone who's not being, because that's the way they describe it. Being, knowing and loving to be. Satchitananda, Namarupa. Anyone not being right now? Anyone who's not knowing? Anyone who's not happy to be? Well, you can all go home. Take it with you. But that's the trouble. We're so conditioned to believe all these ideas and concepts and things we picked up along the way, none of which we were born with, and think we need to become something. Need to do this practice, going on what some of the ancient scriptures tell us, that people tried for years and they've got to do this routine or this meditation to become something that you already are. It's a bit idiotic, isn't it, when you look into it closely and see. And they tell you that we ignore our true nature. Ignorance. Don't mean we're dull or stupid, but not realising or recognise, and that's all that's necessary to do. Have a look around and see. Investigate everything. And recognises what they say is true. There's only that. It's all one essence. That patterns, shapes and forms, experiences and expressing as everything. And that's what they call the great mantra. I am that. The recognition that that is what I am. But we don't. We put names and forms on everything else. That's the floor, that's the carpet, that's the, whatever it is, the speaker on the thing there. That's you, that's me. We put labels on everything. And so we take the pattern, shape and form to be real. And saying that's not real at all. When you investigate it, everything can be, the false, as I say, cannot stand up to investigation. So we need to investigate and look into it. And it doesn't take much really when you get the taste of it. And recognise that everything is that. And you know that's the chair you're sitting in. You know that's the room. That's the space in the room. That's the tree, that's the flower. It's already known. But the words or labels we put on it, we take that to be the reality. Not the appearance. An appearance is something that seems to be so. Look in the mirror, what do you see? A reflection, an image, or an appearance? Is the appearance or the reflection or the image in the mirror, is it actual? Go and try and grab it. Pull your image out of the mirror. You realise, can't you can smash the mirror and do everything with it, trying to grab it, but there's nothing there. And that's what this manifestation is. Manifestation is what they call a phenomenal manifestation. And look up the word phenomena and see what that means. It means that which appears to be. So it's all appearing to be so. The appearance is real enough. You can't say the appearance is not there. But what it's depicting in the appearance is not what it is. And that applies to these words that are being spoken here. The word is not the thing. We've learnt words, and didn't learn the words till you were about 2.5, when the capacity of reasoning developed you. But the word is not the thing either. We believe in all these words, that they have some substance and independent nature. But take the word water. Go out and have a drink of the word, if you can. Pour the word into a glass. And the glass itself, that's only an appearance also, what you call a glass. So you see all the manifestation expressing, and it's all appearing to be something solid, substantial and real. But what is real, and you know, is this sense of presence, the awareness of being. There's nobody who is not unaware in this room. Isn't this right? Isn't that correct? Can any one of you say, I am unaware? You can't. You can't negate your beingness. And they describe it as being, knowing, and loving to be, nama-rupa, or existence, consciousness, bliss, name and form. So there it is. You can't deny your existence. You can't deny your consciousness. Or you can't say you are unaware. Because you know, there's a knowing there. The being is there, and the knowing is there, and the loving to be is there. Need to be recognised and established in it. We've established ourselves, or I have, for many years in this human form, and believed that it was real, and suffered accordingly because of that. It seemed solid, substantial, and very real. Everything was happening to me, or me wasn't doing a good job, or me was this, me was that, all other. What's this me, or I? Well, everybody is present right now. Isn't that a fact? How would you describe yourself? You'll say, I am present. I am here. You're not somewhere else, you're here. But what's the I am that thinks it's here? You don't realise that what it's pointing to, the here-ness, is that what it actually is, the here-ness, or the being, or the no thing. It's not the pattern, shape and form. So I am that, the great mantra, is quite true. And I heard that for years and thought, yeah, they said that, you know, that's the great mantra. Oh yeah, that's a good one. But didn't know anything more about it, or didn't understand or recognise it. Recognise, recognise. That's the way they put it. Is a cognising emptiness. They mean with the cognising is knowing. You're cognising something, you're knowing what it is. And it seemingly appears different, so you say, I've got to recognise that, re-know it, re-see through it, recognise it. And the Buddha told us that he called it a cognising emptiness. And I used to think that I was cognising the emptiness, not realising that what he said was true, but it was the emptiness itself this pure space-like essence or awareness, which you can't say it, in which everything appears in, is the actuality. It is the reality. It is the non-dual one without a second. But the believing in this form was the problem. And he made the statement that emptiness is form. So this emptiness, which we can't say has any solidity, any subject or object, it's space-like awareness. And what's space-like? Well, space is all around you. Have a look at it. What can you say about it? You can't negate it. But you can't say it is, and you can't say it is not. But it's all space. Now have a look at this space again. We take space. To me, oh yeah, space is there. But realise that that's what I'm sitting in. It's space. It's no thing. I can't find a start to it. Where's the start? There. Anyway, can't find. Can you find an end to it? People talk about getting up and flying to the end of space. They'll be flying for a long time. Or starting with the beginning. You can't find a beginning or an end. So it has no shape, has no form. It is no thing. But there's a lot of things in this room. And outside the room is a lot more things. If space is no thing, and all the patterns, shapes and forms are appearing in space, they are the content of space. Can there be something other than no thing? Well, there can't be. So the something, as I say, is only an appearance. It's only seemingly so. It has no substance or independent nature, no reality, no pattern, shape or form. Well, this body-mind that I call me, it has a pattern, has a shape, has a form. Seemingly things can speak, can see, can hear, can taste or touch or something. That's what I believe. But it is not recognised, it's just the pattern. Watch all these things, that pattern has been formed out of the space by the innate intelligence energy that formed the space even. Everything that's still no thing, because something cannot come from no thing. So whether you like it or not, it all appears to be. It's all seemingly so. But in that appearance, in that seemingly so, look at the problems it can cause. The belief in this me, this conceptual image, and just believing, well, how am I going to handle all the functioning and all the pattern, shapes and forms that seem to go on? Well, because that capacity of reason was there, or became there, when I was big enough, or growing from a little baby into learning words, and learnt words and took these words to be, which are things to be real. And that's when the world appeared for me. And the idea of I was born, I came into existence, came about, because that's what I was told. And that's what I believed in from then on, and reinforced that belief. It became more solid and more substantial. But lots of things kept coming up and causing doubts and thoughts and other stories to come up, and it all became divided. And I go to school, and learn all these words. And all these different words have different meanings. And so instead of being the one essence that expresses and appears in everything, now I became the many. And being the many, or other than one, becomes problematic. Because in seeing that there is other than one, this one is greater than I am, or that one's not as good, or this one's false, or that one is true, this is this and that is that, the separation came upon it. And that seeming separation, what is it? Like everything else, look outside and that space, trees in that space are moving and flying around, and I think the space is moving, or the tree is moving, but the tree's not moving. It's the wind or the space, the air that's making it move. And that's some of the elements that are out there. So I've taken myself to be this separate entity, this person, this individual. And the energy of belief going into these words and concepts makes it seemingly be real. You get locked into it. Now, instead of being absolute and seeing everything as it is, that it comes and goes, vibrates naturally, effortlessly and spontaneously, it's transient, it's insubstantial. Now I've become this entity that can moments sometimes be fierce and anxious and think it can conquer the world. Other times it's fearful, miserable and unhappy and depressed, guilty, shameful, remorseful, full of self-pity, and all these sensations come up in it: fear, anger, depression, guilt, unhappiness. So the human pattern has become a mess, especially as it was here. Hell of a mess. And there it was in front of me all the time. Have a look at this, investigate. But I wasn't doing that. I wasn't interested. And I took on this belief that I was this person, and I became absolutely certain that I am a good fellow having a bad trot. Things weren't going right for me. It was poor me. And I hadn't read Way 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 then. That tells you, why are you unhappy? Because everything you say, everything you think, and everything you do is for yourself. And he says there isn't one. What's the hell he's talking about? There isn't a self. I am this personal self. This is me. This is I. Not you. It's not this or that. But what's the I? How long have I had this I? Was I born with it? When I investigate that, I wasn't born with I am. Didn't know anything about the words. I didn't learn any words or have any sense of separation until I was about a couple of years old. Sometimes it's sooner and sometimes later when we pick up the words. Parents fussing around you saying you're a good little boy, you're this, that, the other. And you learnt I. Give you the name, I am Bob. So now this I am has become the conceptual image, the name, Bob, the good fella, the word. But is a word the thing? Drink the word water, you can't. Swim in it, drown in it, you can't. Cook with the word fire. Burn yourself with it. Warm yourself with it. You can't. Am I this body? I believe I am this body because it's this body that has the pain, all these sensations are appearing in it. Am I this body? Well, what do I say? It's my body. Again, this believed in me that I've taken on board now has a body as well as the mind, the thoughts. So I am the so-called person, this personal self. Self-centered, self-will, self-knowing, self-fearful, all applies to this self. But reading what some of these ancients tell me, they say that there is only one self, there's no personal self. The person is not reality. The person is just a label. There's only this one self, the Atman. They call it the Atman, or the Brahman self, or the God self, or the one reality. Not a personal self at all. Where does this word person come from? Persona, a mask, all come from the Latin. A lot of them come from Latin, a lot of them come from other things. But each word has several different meanings to it. Just like these bodies and mind have several different concepts about what we think we are. Instead of recognising it's only one. Different worlds, different places. All anything but one, the appearance of the many. And locked in that, the conceptualising goes on day in, day out. Doesn't stay still for very long at all. Different concepts come up. 1 minute I'm this, the next minute I'm something else, and then something else again. And then it comes worse, I'm not good enough, or I'm fearful, I'm unhappy, I shouldn't be like this. Continually conceptualising. And the Buddhists tell me in one sentence, they call it the great perfection. What can you add to the perfect? If it's perfect, nothing can be added to it. It wouldn't be perfect. Nothing can be taken away from it. It wouldn't be perfect. And they tell you loudly and clearly, the great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. And there's nobody in this room who's unaware. Try and tell me you are. It might be you're not unaware, you're knowing that you are. You're not unconscious, you're knowing that you are. And you know that you are that being. That's how they express the non-duality in other terms, being, knowing and loving to be. What does becoming mean? It implies that there's a future time and a thing that can change and will become something else. It's not being. Being is this immediacy. It's not some future time. Because when you investigate time, you'll recognise that time is a mental concept. Is there a past if I don't think about it? Test that out. And you'll say, well, I was in the past. I'll say, try and live yesterday. Try and go back, live yesterday. Maybe you can do something about it if you can live yesterday. Go back. Maybe you wouldn't have taken that path if you go back and relive it. But you can't go back. It's gone. But you can recall it. And there's only parts of it you can recall. You can't recall it all. And no one here can remember your birth, purely and simply because you had no words. Without the words, you can't say it's good, bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, anything at all about it. As Shakespeare tells you. He says there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Why would he say that if he hadn't understood or recognised it? What can you do if you pause the thought and ask yourself what's wrong with right now? What can you say about it? I can't say anything at all about it. Things appear just as they are, just as it is. What is means it's unaltered, unmanifested, unexpressed, unmodified, uncorrected, just as it is. Unless I put a thought or a concept or an idea on it, it's going to say as it is. It might appear to change, and it will appear to change. The changes that appear in the empty world, uncaused, are all only patterns of intelligence energy vibrating, nothing other. They only appear to be so. And in the Bible it tells you, in the beginning of the Word. We worried about this beginning and ending and things like that. It tells you, in the beginning was the Word. That's when it all began. The Word was with God. They put this label on the Word God. The Word was God. The Word was with God. The Word was God. All things were made by Him, by that Word. Good, bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad. All the labels are words, just the same as the word God is a word. There was nothing made that was made without Him. So no wonder we take these words to be real. We've been told that there is this greater power, greater than you and I, knows more than what you and I do. Not realising that in the beginning it all began with the Word. Prior to the Word, when you look in the Bible again, you see the story of Adam and Eve, the two supposed first human beings. They were in paradise, the Garden of Eden. Everything was happy and joyful and all the rest. What happened? They got sick of being there and enjoying it, and they thought they'd learn words. So they ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's all that words are, the pairs of opposites. And of course that got them into big trouble. And ever since then, we've been locked into the Word, believing the Word. But down through the ages, people have seen through it. There have been some that have really looked into it and known the truth. Years and years back, 1,000 years back, was that be only a very few that would understand it. And there was no ways of communicating in it the way there is today. And they'd maybe pass it on to somebody in a village outside who might, if he was lucky, pass it on to somebody else. And others got onto it and created their own stories about it, added to it, instead of seeing it as simplicity and absoluteness. They added things to it and formed a concept of words that if we didn't do this and didn't do that, we'd be terrible sinners, beat ourselves up with the Word, and do all sorts of things. And we'd have to practice this and practice that and do this and do that to become recognised or realised, and then the words wouldn't bother us. And so it loses its purity even in the expression of it. And religious traditions are formed around it. But the word's not the thing. The Taoist, one of the early ones, says the way that can be spoken about is not the way. What are they telling you there? If it can be spoken about, that means it can be thought about and formulated as a concept or a thought. But that's not the way. The Hensing Men, another one, tells us the great way is not difficult. We think it's difficult. We've got all these words. We've got to overcome these words, concepts and ideas, and then become realised. They tell you the great way is not difficult. And they give you the reason. For those who have no preferences. Each and every one of us has got preferences about this, that and the other. That's the way the thinking functions. Without preferences. What else do they say? With the preferences, I forget what it is.
When both are absent,
Yeah.
the opposites are absent.
Everything
Everything's clear and undisguised.
everything becomes clear and undisguised. Make the smallest correction, however.
Fiction, however. And have Heaven and earth are
set
separate.
infinitely apart. Yes, we're making that distinction by liking or preferring one word over another, and the words appear in the opposite. That's all you can do. We lose sight of the clarity. Become locked into concepts. And the concept and the word are not the real. Because it goes on to negate all that till it becomes to the end of it. And the last verse is words. The way is beyond language. That means it's prior to the word, prior to the language. Way is beyond language.
For Venus, there is no
My mind's going on, I think.
no today, no tomorrow. Oh no.
Hmm?
No. For Enid, there is no yesterday, no
Yeah.
tomorrow, and not today.
Yeah. Yes, all the words just become words, names and forms, which we put on everything, which is not the real. You are left with what is. What is with you right now? Has that being changed? Has the consciousness changed? Are you unaware right now? You're not, you're still being. You're knowing that you are, and you're happy to be. So you are that. Now concepts might be still coming up on it, but can they contaminate or corrupt what you are? They can't. So what can you say about yourself? Just what we started off with. I am that. That is all there is. That's all I can be, or ever will be. That. Which is no thing in itself, but contains everything. They call it in some scriptures the everything and the no thing. Not two, not divided. The everything is the no thing and the no thing is everything. Simple. If we recognise and stay there. All these thoughts, feelings and emotions we're locked into for years, when they get into the body and they cause thought, feeling and emotion, keep them there long enough, they come in motion. And that, what's emotion? It's movement, emotion, stirring up the fear, the anger, the depression, the guilt, the shame and remorse, the love, the hate, all emotions. But it's not what you are. That's about all that I've got to say today. So you can get into it.
Thanks, Bob.
So we have 25 people with us online, and we have a lot of welcome messages. Did you get it? Oh yeah. And a lot of good morning messages and welcome messages. And we have the feedback from Sandy. She says, "Good morning, Bob and Kat. So pleased to receive Bob's wonderful cards this week. Beautiful, wise, simple, clear pointing. Over and over reminding me to rest as non-conceptual awareness that I am. A precious gift for self or others. Much gratitude to Bob and Kat." And yes, thank you, Sandy. I'm glad you've got them. Sandy is from Australia, so if anyone is from Australia, other place than Melbourne, contact us and we can send it. The postage is not killing.
He's making a mistake there. They're not my cards, they're your cards.
Well, not one pointer of them is mine. They're all yours. Yeah, they actually, yes. Every single pearl of wisdom there comes from Bob's pointing. And some of the beaches and sunsets and sunrises, they were from our walks too. So, and yet we still give credit to life, of course. Life expressing through Bob as those pearls of wisdom, and life expressing as everything. And there are no questions. There are no questions from anyone. That was just the only comment. So that is the place where we invite you to ask questions or share or tell us how you're going.
Yes, not a matter of just questioning it, but a lot of people have got an idea of what it's all about after all these years and can express it as well as it's expressed here. But others might hear it where they won't hear what this one's saying.
Yeah.
So it should be expressed. That's how it gets around. There's a lot of people, if several people are enlightened with what each and every one of you say, it's going to make a big difference in the world. But if it's left as it is...
And that's the beauty of this meeting, that it's not just Bob, the great enlightened guy on the big throne, and everybody else is condemned and poor and far behind. Everyone's already that. And a lot of you know that with absolute clarity, so this is the place to share it. A lot of you know that with enough clarity. There might be occasional obstructions coming, and if they do, speak them out as well, because that's the way to get them out of the way, to question them, to look at them. That's one of the central points in Bob's message, is to not fall for worshipping a messenger, like what happened with the great religions. We had Jesus with a very, very clear message: love your neighbor as thyself. And what is thyself? I am that life, I am that way, I am is the way, I am is the life. Or Buddha. And what happened? I mean, technically, Buddha is not worshipped, but I've been in enough of a Buddhist country when I was working at sea, and I could see the paper money being burned for Buddha to arrange me a real one. Hello. So it is not about worshipping the messenger. The messenger is really just to, and it's funny enough actually, I was speaking with a gorgeous young woman who was struggling with certain pointers, and she had this very, very strong attachment to the idea of success related to the money. And if you don't make a good business and you don't make money, you're not success. And I say, well, okay, so how about Jesus? How about Buddha? What a failures, huh? And Bob didn't make a fortune ever as well. And what a failure. I mean, are you missing anything? The freedom is the freedom from desires. It's the freedom to actually notice and appreciate the perfection, recognize it as already present in the way the world, the life unfolds. And if there is judgment arising, that's the part of the perfection, because the judgment around the suffering, the judgment around some seemingly good or bad things in the world, it also comes from loving care. So that's part of the perfection. Anyone would like to start us off? Michael, wonderful. Which way do we turn it now?
I think I'm living more and more from that place, but I did have a horrible attack of the mind and self over the last couple of days, and it was really interesting because I know what to say to myself, but it's almost like I still couldn't get out of it. So I knew it wasn't me, I knew the thoughts were just arising, but they were attacking and attacking and attacking. And it was physical as well. I felt physical agitation. And I haven't felt like that for a long, long time. And it's almost like the self is coming in to, come on, you know, there's the last, it almost felt like the last fight, almost. And then the mind's so tricky, the way it kind of comes around, and you know, so you let it go for a little while and then it'll sneak up behind you and grab you in the form of someone saying something, or a situation unfolding. And so, I mean, I kind of know the answer, so it's kind of silly to even ask. But I mean, I'll ask anyway, because the non-conceptual awareness, there's, we need concepts to survive. So even if we've got a cup, we don't know if you just look at what we see, it's just shapes and patterns, there's nothing else. There's colours and shapes and patterns, and even drinking from a cup requires a concept. We have to know what it is. We have to use the concept. And the thing is,
I'm not very sure about that.
yeah,
I mean,
well,
I can tell you honestly, our cats are drinking water from their bowls every day, and they don't need a concept for that. I mean, I see where you're heading. Of course, concepts are very, very useful, and they advance humanity over every other creature.
mm,
But they're not really necessary for survival. I mean, there are people with the brain damage, lost their concepts, they're still alive. But yes, you own the ball here. It's just that, that it's not that extreme, which is a good news, isn't it?
yeah, it is good news.
Yeah.
I know you
Go
would
on.
still drink, but I wonder whether you would know to drink from a cup, for example, or you'd know not to walk into a tree, but you wouldn't know it was a tree. And we kind of dismiss
Yeah,
the tree
yeah.
instantly with the concept.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but that's exactly the question. Where do you draw the line?
You
Because
don't.
you have this thought that comes in, and it might be useful, like that horrible thought I'm having that's causing me pain or suffering might be changing my direction, like make me evaluate myself or evaluate, how I'm behaving in the world. So it may be doing that, or it might be just absolute rubbish. And I go through a point where I just go, so I'm not going to listen to any thoughts. I don't believe any of them. Doesn't matter what they say, I don't believe it. But then there's confusion about where do you draw that line? Where do you draw the line and say, well, yes, that's a valuable thought or concept, or just be?
Who are you? You think you are someone who needs to do something or draw the line or distinguish? Are you placing yourself as someone in power to even do that? Can you see that? And of course, I'm really sorry that you're going through it, because so often you're in that beautiful, peaceful space. So it is, I know, it's devastating. It kind of feels like really a drawback. But if it subtly comes up as the idea that what do I do? Where do I draw the line? Which thoughts I believe? You're totally right. There's no need to believe any of them, because there is no one to do that.
We attach to the thoughts that there's something there. Detach, leave the thoughts go. What's it appearing on? Have you lost sight of that presence awareness that seems to be obscured with the thoughts come on it, and the feeling, especially when the feelings are in the body? But you haven't stopped breathing, your heart hasn't stopped beating, the natural functioning is going on, and the thoughts are coming and seemingly obscure it. Detach from the thoughts, leave them in.
And know someone who had a big awakening for like 2 weeks out of nowhere, and like she was living by herself most of the time, and she'd go, "Oh, tomatoes are being cut," or when someone came back, like she heard her name, I was like, "Who's that?" And maybe the concept came out of someone's been called, but yeah, she seemed to be living,
I guess it has been like that. Like it has been like, without me even being aware of it, it has kind of been like that, where I've just been doing things and like it's just happening.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so much of a shock for that to come in. And then even though knowing all of that, it still seems to be very strong. And it's gone. It's like pretty much gone now.
Yeah.
For
Good.
like
Well,
2 days.
It was the whole pattern before. The pattern, you're in that all the time. Naturally, it's going to appear again and again. But each time you recognise it, less and less hold it takes on you.
It's just not believing it, like not like just and not wanting it to go away either. That's the hard part. Not wanting it, like seeing that that's it as well, and not wanting. I just wanted it to go away.
Yeah, that one thing. See, one thing is just another program, because the program of establishing some sort of a central figure or the character or the controller there in life is a piece of software. This selfing sort of a program, and now wanting it to go away is another piece of narrative, another program.
And attachment.
Yeah. That's the sneaky mind coming in from around behind. Not even noticing that I'm wanting it to go away, but that's what it is.
Yeah, you just see all of them appearing in the awareness, all of them appearing on the space that you are. And right now you say they're all gone, so you can actually just retrospect and see the pieces of software coming up, the pieces of mechanical conditioning, mechanical reactions, behaviors coming up. And yes, they may be coming up. They may be coming up forever and ever. Like Nisargadatta said, he was occasionally a residue of old conditioning comes up, but it is recognized.
And the reason I kind of say maybe whether there's some purpose behind it as well, because it's come from kind of not impure intention, but like not being fully honest with intention. So in other words, having a pure outcome, but manipulating the way to get to the outcome so that it wasn't actually pure in the way it was expressed. And so it's almost like, I don't know whether that's a message as well. You know, the message is just be pure, like don't try to manipulate an outcome.
Yeah, but at the same time, there is another piece of danger here, that you establish yourself as someone who has the power to manipulate or be impure. Just notice how this, you know, this sense of separate entity comes with through the back door all the time, trying. Of course, there is no one there trying anything. It's just a piece of program, kind of like a virus. Loving to be. It loves to be. It wants to survive and get attention, thrive and appear and blossom. Every single thing, every thought, every feeling, every form, everything is just that one absolute expressing as something. And the idea, the way for it to survive is to create that sort of a illusion that I'm real, you know, I can do something, I can feel something, I can, you know, but it isn't there. It's just, you can see the magnificent show, that like magic tricks of everything being completely mechanical and yet appearing so alive and so real. But when you're looking from the detached space-like awareness, you are mind blown, and nothing needs to be like, you know, what is the meaning of it? Oh, does it mean I have to be pure? Or does it mean I have to stop manipulating? That's another way of the virus coming through the back door. Meaning for who? Is lovely. We are all in love with beautiful stories about meanings, and if you are really drawn into creating those stories, make them 2 or 3, and best of all, self-contradicting, so that you can see, oh, the meaning of it is for me to stay pure. Oh no, the meaning of that is for that manipulative part to show that it loves and cares for me, or another meaning. And then when you see them all being equal, there's no way you can believe all of them if they're self-contradictory. So that's the freedom through it. It's a little kind of a play that may be helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, it will be. And again, it's just don't believe it.
Yeah.
Don't believe the thought. Thank you.
I'd just like to make a comment on that too, Michael, because some weeks ago I left my bag on the train with all my identity on it and a whole lot of stuff, and I thought I went to absolute pieces because all the most important documents were in the bag. But my daughter arrived to pick me up, and she gave me a cuddle which allowed me to cry. To have an emotional release, but very quickly I was able to pull back in and say, hang on, is there anything wrong with this right now? Right now, am I harmed by anything? Everything was whole, everything was still there. There wasn't anything, it was a story in the mind, and then this, and then this, and then this. Yeah. Oh no. But actually, so I think that's that thing about awareness can only exist in the now. So for me, coming straight into the body and saying, hang on, like, is anything broken? Have I been damaged? Am I in... No, everything was fine. It was really interesting because I was able to pull back into that very quickly. So the emotional reaction was there, and then I was able to pull back in. And the other thing was, like having a terminal illness, that idea that you have a terminal illness is a massive contraction. Has the potential, right? But in fact, in any one moment or second in the present moment, nothing's wrong. Nothing exists that's wrong. It's all functioning, everything's going well, Doesn't mean that it will later, but but that thing about around survival and stuff, right? That's a massive contraction. But in the end, it's just a thought. Yeah.
Just a couple of comments on that event, Anita. Wasn't that perfect? Losing your identity just like that?
I mean, the analogy was wonderful. No identity. Yeah. Turned out to be I didn't lose all that much anyway, Probably. Yeah. Still a work in progress. story we made. Thank you. I'm just clarifying something from earlier. When the word software virus came up, so all the beliefs I hold about myself are basically a virus. Is that correct?
Well, it's just a metaphor, you know.
Yeah, that's what I mean
because-
for a metaphor.
Yes,
So
it's a metaphor.
anytime I get hooked into the
They are all concepts, thoughts. You can call them viruses. You can call them like vibration.
I work with analogies sometimes better. So that really struck me, that when I start, like these two guys demonstrated, you start falling down the hole and then realise, oh my God, I began falling down the hole, and then I pulled back and I realised, oh, that it's not really going on the way I'm making it happen in my head. And then this word virus came up, and I thought a lot of the things that pull me down the hole are usually related to what I've believed, or the script I've got running that says what I should have achieved by now, or should be by now, or what I've failed to do by now. And they're and what happiness is, and all the sort of, I don't know, all the things that make you unhappy. That's this virus, if you like, because if it's not, obviously not bringing me joy, is it? If you're feeling like
if it's believed.
good, yeah. So
if you think it's real, that's getting sick of the virus. I mean, you know, letting it infect you. While if you see those thoughts and they are harmless, they're just passing phenomena.
Yeah. So that helps me understand it really a bit better about how to let it go, because there's still a daily falling down the hole. The minute I wake up, it's like, well, what's my life about? And it's this constant, like I say, I sort of try and describe it as there's got to be a point to all this, because without a point, what's the point of me being here? And
that's a heavy one.
That's
heavy story.
It is, and it's causing me knock-on problems. So it's stopping the understanding this. The idea of a virus is really helpful. And a but's coming in. Well, so what do you do instead? What I mean is, when you find yourself, when one finds themselves stepping off into that hole of that dialogue, the alternative is to just let that thought pass. And that's a good word. Thank you.
Bob wants to comment. So, what did you say?
I say, what do you do for the virus? Take a pill. Drop the idea of that thing in another thing I said there. This fellow goes through it all and recognises it, and he says in the finish, I am I who is conscious. All this is fictitious, like a dream. Thinking that, I throw my cap in the air and dance for joy.
Lovely.
So you're thinking all these things, the fear and that come on afterwards, they're still the same old crap, a story.
Yeah.
What's the story happening in that consciousness or awareness?
Yeah.
Is that touched? Whether it seems to be, it seems to be a virus there, the virus is just another concept you got.
Yeah.
A thought. Let the thoughts be there, knowing without that consciousness they couldn't be there. So I am the consciousness or awareness. Doesn't matter what comes of it.
Okay.
I also remember Bob once told me the story that was actually somewhat of an insight when probably 2 or 3 years to us living together, we already had those beautiful 2 cats. And I had a kind of like a heavy day, you know, hormone stuff. And I just jokingly said, going through the house, well, I wasn't too productive today. And Bob looked at those cats and he says, how productive are they? And what do they know about it? What concept do they have about their own productivity? And of course, we both laughed. You know, the idea that I have to be productive, that I have to show, that was jokingly. I wasn't really buying into it. But, you know, you could easily, and I know a lot of people who buy into the idea. Like the beautiful lady I was talking about, you know, Jesus and Buddha being a failure because their businesses didn't prosper. And they didn't show up anything, you know, like materialistic for their life. What's the point? Why am I here? What did God or someone outside there put me here for? What's my mission? What's my function? What's my goal? What's the story of my life? Well, there is no life story in the heart, only in the head. In the heart is just this miraculous, amazing moment that will never ever be the same again. And you can see it and leave it fully, or you can miss it because you go to the head.
And that's what's been happening is that there's too much of a strong pull on the emotional realm. Wake up, nothing particular to do, and you know, sort of coming out of your, you know, your more youthful years. You haven't got the fitness and stuff, and it's like I can't even generate something enjoyable to do anymore, you know, because there's this just a sense of, I don't know, it's like a pointlessness to it. If I could suddenly get a rush of inspiration and feel like painting, or feel like, you know, I don't know, being more sociable, or join a dance group, or something, just feel like something, that would help. But it's almost not there. It's if I just be without even the thought of what do I do today, there's still a pervasive sense of no inspiration. So even if there's no dialogue, there's still a sense of something. And it doesn't necessarily have words, it's a feeling.
Yes, Bob?
That's being, isn't it?
Sense of emptiness.
That's being.
I say you're being, still being, without the...
You're still being, just like the cat basking in the sun. You can still love to be, even if there is no...
And that's what I'm having difficulty with, is just being and feeling happy being.
I think...
I was going to say that if you can identify the software, you know, which is all these thoughts coming up, you must inherently know that there's hardware behind it. You know? There's a computer, if you like, or that vast thing we call awareness, which enables you to play out this vast array of difficult patterns and shapes and forms in your mind. So we just have to step back and have a look, drop all the differentiation between those kind of programs, and you might see the spectacular hardware that's taken place. You know, you're the one who is able to think a thought in the first place. That's bloody amazing, isn't it?
Thank you.
Paula, did you want to say something?
I had a few flat days this week, but I actually let go a couple of days ago, and my story of what I've created all my life is fucking amazing. I can see that more and more. I've let go of the story and I can see that beyond the story I felt more than that, and I've had aha moments with the intuition, but the intuition, God or the divine in me just said, that's your purpose, your story, and you can see beyond this story. I had this aha moment a few days ago, so there you go.
Bob? No?
Just a matter of
The other
detachment.
thing I was just going to suggest to you is, I had a breakdown some years ago. I've never, I went through a very difficult time, had a very bad breakdown. The only place that I could survive was in the heart space.
Yeah.
Just awareness held there. I didn't know that it was even a practice. I just knew that when I put the awareness there, the mind shut up.
Yeah.
And I found that, so I ended up practicing just all day, laying around just with awareness there, and then attempting to go out into the world with 1 foot here and 1 foot there.
Yeah.
And I found that really profoundly effective, because I was crazy,
Yeah.
The mind was crazy.
That somatic experiencing, yeah. I've practiced. Sorry. It's like that somatic experiencing. Yeah, I do that. That's how I can get to sleep at night and things like that. Sorry.
It's too fast. Okay. Yeah, I just had boredom for like a couple of years in my 20s, and I think I had like an emotional boredom where I just didn't have feeling for anything, and then I also had like an intellectual boredom where just nothing was interesting, and it was very much I think what you're saying. I think the emotional one, I had a couple of incidences and the emotions just all came back, but with the boredom, I just eventually just started doing stuff. And I didn't like, it was very neutral, but I just found myself starting to do stuff, and eventually that whole thing just went away.
My next step. That's going to be my next project. My next,
Mm.
yeah, try. My next step is just to do it. However I feel. Yeah.
And Bob says, cause and effect, and they do cause all our problems, our thinking and that. I can tell people now, but 2 years ago I made missing persons on Vic Police. I had sunk that low, like I can't believe it today, but it was just my thoughts that created it. This is how I can see life now. It's your thoughts. It's just a thought. I don't know how to put it into words, but thanks.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
I think the realness, those who are admitting to the darker times.
Well, they're not dust, really.
Well, I've got
Well,
all
they
I think the thing is with thought, when the thought takes you, it takes you out of spontaneity of what's possible in the moment. And when you let go of that and you're just in the moment, the most incredible things show up.
Yeah.
You can't think about it. You could never make up a plan for it. It just shows up. And it's just remarkable. So, we're being robbed of actually living by those thoughts. Probably any of us have gone through that, we know that. But the juice of life is in the present moment only, because that's where everything unfolds and the spontaneity comes back. You no thought about it, it just happens.
And yet a lot of people develop addictions and other mind-numbing behaviours because when they're in their moment, it isn't enjoyable. Because there's, and this is what I'm trying to describe, there's no words to it, it's just a pervasive sensation that says, what's the point of it all? Not like a, oh God, tell me what's the point, but more of a...
That's the same.
It's,
Thought, feeling and emotion are the same.
yeah.
Well, unfixated awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Unfixated awareness. Not whatever's coming up in awareness and you're grasping onto, attaching to, it's got you. Don't fixate on it. Let it be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm going to try a bit of painting or something. And
You see, the most obvious thing that you would hear, and I sometimes speak with people also who are not into non-duality, and I would not invite them to go where they not really ask to go. So the most obvious thing for someone who doesn't even consider questioning their own self is to detach from that, see how you are a center of all of it. There is a there is I don't mean it in judgmental way, because this is a program. Selfishness, self-centeredness, self-obsession.
Absolute
Yes. So so the obvious thing is find someone in a worse position and help them. Find someone who is more bored or more depressed. Reach out.
Because it's exhausting. It's all the time. I just want to run away, but I've got a bigger problem to go back to. So. I'm sorry. Sorry, Dean. No.
You're not
I'm going to go for the painting.
Lovely, lovely. And we have a couple of comments from people here who are online with us. So Jyoti says, where I find myself currently in terms of suffering, can you listen to it, David and Gina? It can actually help you what she's saying, because she says, where I find myself currently in the terms of suffering is that observation quicks in quite quickly, and it dulls the feeling of guilt and blame. Grateful for that. See, the observation kicks in quickly, and it dulls that feeling. It may be guilt or blame or boredom, whatever the feeling is. That discipline of being aware of whatever is happening within the space of awareness kicks quickly, and it actually disengages, detaches the attention from that feeling. So that is really helpful. Thank you, Jyoti. And see who else says what. To follow on from Bob, to detach from thoughts. This is from Ram, another good one. To follow on from Bob, to detach from the thoughts is recognizing that there is no thinker. There is no thinker of a thought. Thoughts appear spontaneously in space and disappear in space. That's also a wonderful pointer. There is no feeler of the feeling, no sensor of the sensation. Whether it is a thought or whether it has, already appeared in the body as a chemical reactions going contraction, whatever it is, there is no undoing it, and really just realizing. Bradley says the ego, like middle management in any institution, creates a bureaucratic bottleneck when threatened with redundancy. Isn't he brilliant? Thank you.
Who is it?
It is Bradley. It is, yeah, totally beautiful. And Jacqueline says to Anita, hi Anita, I met you in Tiruvannamalai.
Hi, Jacqueline. I look forward to seeing you there again.
Yeah, lovely. And Zanti says, I am this body-mind, that's quote unquote, is now seen to be a fleeting thought, like all the rest of thoughts. Such a relief to rest as quiet being that witnesses it all. See, that's it, that idea of identification. It's just a fleeting, passing phenomena. It's not always there, obviously. Thank you. And Dale Allison says, tuning in from the other side of town. And Catherine says, life is never a thought, never, ever, ever. Even the thought, I am. You are prior to any thought. That's beautiful. Life is not a thought. Yes. Vivek, the more times the word I is used, that shows identification. Mind is playing the identity story of I guess that's a sharing, because it doesn't have to be everyone. Bob may say I 1,000 times, it doesn't mean anything. But thank you for sharing. This is about sharing too. And Gudula says, happy with my story is joy with life, whatever it brings. Lovely, good on ya. And Bradley says, thoughts are just birds in the sky of your mind. Just don't let them make a nest in your hair or shit on your head. That wasn't Bradley.
End up looking like this.
But yeah.
Bird nest.
And American Julia says, I am laughing at the fresh and newness of this message. Either that or I am laughing at myself for apparently never truly listening to anything. Oh, darling. Yes. Somehow I clicked on what I thought was this meeting, but I have been listening for the last hour, which to the meeting I heard last week. Yes, that happens too. And Daria Allison says thank you to Ram for what he says on following on Bob to detach from thoughts. And Bradley says thought is just paint on the canvas of consciousness. Personal conditioning is the pigment in the paint. That's a beautiful metaphor. And that's that. So, and that's Ren is bringing two pictures of the two birds and the butterfly in between as an illustration. Okay, so that's back to you guys. That was it for the online. Gina, hey.
Thank you, Dean. I understand about letting the, conscious thoughts drift in and out, and that I agree with, but this I don't know whether I've learnt too much psychology or what, but there's also a subconscious set of beliefs that are running below your level of open, thoughts that you can hear, and how much of that is actually operating this pervasive feeling of, doom or whatever you want to call it. Could it be a belief that I've internalized, or a concept I've internalized as I was growing up, that the world's not a safe, happy place to be, and that it's actually running at a level I can't do anything about. And so, because I've always had addiction problems, which is like to try and escape that negative feeling, and it doesn't matter how many times I try and overcome these difficulties, it just pops up in another addiction. This is why I was referring to mood-changing behaviours. You can drink or drug or sex or drive your car fast or, I don't know, extreme sports. I don't know, you can do anything to take you away from feeling that thing that you feel you have no control over. And it is a feeling, and I believe it's subconsciously aroused. And I don't know how, from this way of living, how we do anything about that.
Yeah, unfortunately there's nothing you're gonna do about anything from any level of living, and that is the uncompromising base of this message. There is no doer. Whether whatever is happening, and yes, totally, it could be deeply rooted sense that come from PTSD or from abandonment as a child, which is an interpretation. It didn't have to happen in physical world. It is enough if it happened on the level of interpreting reality. It can all totally be the case. And even if it wasn't, there is no doer who can do anything about it. The recognition is the only way. See, if you look at Bob's life story, if you look at Bob at age of 30, he lost his teeth in the fight. He was drinking alcoholically for already 14 years at that point. Homeless, unemployed, unemployable, beaten up, lying on the streets. And his sense of safety in the world was what a joke. There was absolutely nothing to hang on to. A pits of despair. He came back to AA, he got sober, and then he went out again. After 8 months of sobriety or 9 months of sobriety. And he kept drinking again, because there was only the self-centered there. There was only that sense that there's nothing beyond that ego which is threatened, and I am that, I am the ego that is threatened, the world is not unsafe, and what am I going to do? I've tried everything, I try to desensitize, I try to drink, I try to whatever. If the I is in the center, you fucked. There's nothing that can be done, absolutely nothing. The recognition comes from beyond the I. Bob, it started him on the search to look, oh yes, something has given me a second chance in life. So then maybe there is something outside of that self-center. Maybe there is a God, or maybe there is reality, or life, or intelligence, or something. And now, trying to actually search, it is an illusion. It is again the mind imagining that it isn't that it is something outside of itself. But the search brought him to the point in which there was a maturity and readiness for that tired pattern of thinking that has been searching and seeking and torturing itself and dreaming and longing to eventually give up and rest its case, because there is nothing it can do. It's a mechanical program, it can do nothing. So a kind of like accepting that complete powerlessness from the perspective of the self, it is opening up for the life to look after you just the way it always did, and to recognize that life always looked after you. You are here now. Your heart is beating, you're healthy, you have roof over your head. Bob was much worse. And life was still looking after him. So if you can actually just, like Anita was saying, drop to the heart and find what's already present, and just bask in that. All those programs, and if you want to, we can have a play, we can go for a long walk and have a play. All those programs are also expression of love. No program in the body actually wants to destroy you.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. It wants to protect itself, even the seemingly mad things we do.
Mike, can you... Yeah.
Sorry.
Even the seemingly self-destructive things we do are to preserve us in some way. They have a positive side, payoff, whatever you want to call it. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Isn't it lovely to know? Can I it to Marcy?
I guess what can you say about the feeling? You know, what's wrong with the feeling if you don't label it? Or
If I don't label it...
So what are you doing right now?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm listening. I was trying to answer the question, just looking around for the answer to what I thought your question was.
Yeah, there's no answer to it. It's that space between you answering it, me asking the question.
Yeah.
The space between me asking whatever that is, asking the question, and you answering it. Yeah. What can you say about it?
Not a lot, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, and if you realise there's not a lot you can actually say about that feeling, then all of a sudden you stop calling it whatever you've been calling it. I can't actually remember what you've been calling it, but yeah, and it's just saying that in those spaces you are actually free and happy, and that's always available to you. But then you want to call it something again. And then you go back into thinking that's what it is, but it's not what you think it is. It's actually beyond what you think it is.
Yeah, I'd love to get to that place.
Well, you're there. Yeah, you're there. It's just that you have a thought that comes up as soon as...
No, I open my eyes and I wake out of sleep, and then a feeling is present, and I'm so used to calling it
Exactly, you call it something.
what it is. But only because it's already present and I've named it.
Well,
it was there
what's
first.
more present, the feeling, or you calling the present feeling present? What's more immediate, the feeling, or you calling the feeling present?
Feeling.
The feeling. So it's always free of whatever label you call it. Even if you think your label's present, it's still more immediate than the present label that you give it. And so it's free. It's always free. And you spend moments of the day free. But it's, and then you just got to just recognize that you do have a moment where you are experiencing freedom, nothing. And then you say it's pointless. But it's actually more than being pointless. And you have it, so just recognizing it.
I think it's when you suspend the thought to answer. That for me is the awake moment, when you like.
No, it's me saying I want to say something, but
Yeah.
it's going to be contradicted because of my experience. And
But when you first.
I'll just go away and do my. I'll just go and do my. I'll do my art. Step one, do the art.
Also, Michael's pretty.
Powerless.
Also, Michael's pretty good at helping expose emotional stuff. That's what he does as a job.
Yeah.
From different,
I think I've been over-theraped. This is the problem. Because, like I say, there's like subconscious stuff, which is why what's more interesting about what's being said is how there is nothing I can do.
Yeah.
Even if it's a fact, a psychological fact that I've got a subconscious program that says, you'll never amount to anything. Life's shit. You're not worth. It's not.
Yes.
Life's worth not. All that bollocks.
Mm-hmm.
If there's absolutely nothing I can do about that, then that helps me more than trying to understand how I can change the underlying feeling, because I know as a fact that exists from the moment I open my eyes. And yes, it's not happening now because I'm talking, so I'm distracted. But I spend like 12 hours sleeping with the help of, sedatives. And when I'm not doing that, I'm just watching TV, just trying to stop from feeling that feeling. So if there's nothing I can actually do to stop it, I can give up. And that's, so now I'm going to try the surrender thing. But it's going to be a real deep surrender.
Very deep.
A deep surrender.
Because the disclaimer to that, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I feel incomplete, I feel something's missing, lacking, and there is nothing I can do. That can be actually a suicidal ideation, when you But the truth is, the one who cannot do anything is not your true self. As a true self, as life, you can create situations when the recognition happens. As life, you can create situations, then some sort of a shift or recognition or medication or passion, whatever arises in life. As that imagined self, obviously, nothing can be done because the self is imagined. How could imagined self do anything if it doesn't really exist? So there is a feeling, there is a program, and more or less everyone is born into that program. I mean, the baby isn't born with it. They say, what is that sin from Adam and Eve, from the paradise? That's primordial sin. It came from learning the words and distinguishing between good and evil. And now I'm evil, I'm sinner. I have to be humble. I can't feel like totality. I am encapsulated in the body. I'm limited. I'm vulnerable. Of course, it develops into that existential angst.
Who told you?
Exactly. But this existential angst, as the identification of the body, is given and is normal and is natural. The thing to recognize is you are not the one who is inferior, and you are not the one who is unworthy. The feeling of unworthiness is not your essential self or true nature. In this manner, surrender, you don't even surrender. It is not you who surrenders. It's the idea that dissolves in that presence, in that heart. and there's no suicidal ideation involved.
Yeah.
No ideation at all.
Yeah.
I has never done anything.
I have
You say,
yeah.
not just I can't do it now. You never have.
Mm.
There's nothing that you, as the believed in person, has ever done. What were you doing about your birth, if you think you can do something? What are you doing about that breath you just took? Or digesting your food? It's happening. We claim there's an I that does it. I is just another word, another label. In the beginning was the word.
Peter, do you want to say? Because I have comments from online.
Well, just
Marley?
quickly, I just want to say that do you really want the answer? That's the thing. Do you really want?
do.
Great. Well, that's a really good start, isn't it?
Yes.
You really want the answer. Great. Fantastic. Now you have to recognise that all the thinking you're having is opposed to the answer. So let it go.
Yes, thank you.
So I think what Martin was trying to say is more, instead of trying to fight the feeling, like you said, the surrender, just feel it. And instead of saying, this is a bad feeling, I don't want to feel it, this is a virus, it's bad, it's just another program. It's just another thing, it's another sensation, like you feel cold water on your hands.
So don't label it as
Don't label it and
negative.
just let it be. So don't fight it, just actually feel it.
It's a belief.
Sit in it and feel it. And it's going to be uncomfortable because it's not fun. And we want fun and joy all the time. But then when you don't fight it and you just let it be, then it can dissipate. And it may take time, but it can dissipate slowly. But when we fight it, we're stuck in this resistance of like, I can't feel this. I don't want to feel this. I don't want to do this. And then it's creating more and more, resistance. And that's the missing out. Whereas if you accept it and you surrender, like you said you're going to do, it's okay. I'm feeling this. I've learned that it's uncomfortable, which is another label. What am I actually feeling? And then if you notice, it's just energy. It's just energy. And if it gets too hard, give us a call.
Okay. And also, I have an anagram for feel because we know it's energy. So every time you surrender, you're facing the experience with the energy of love that you are.
It's hard though.
And I have a couple of comments. Does you want to say something, Dean?
No.
No? Oh, that's a pity.
Dean's out of breath.
Yes, so here is the comment from Ram. And he says, when you go to ashrams in the East, they make disciples, devotees, do seva, meaning selfless service, as an important sadhana in the aspirant's spiritual path. The point being to simply take the attention away from the incessant self-obsession and self-centeredness. This can be a powerful tool towards helping the aspirant get to a place where genuine self-inquiry is possible. Yeah, that's what I was saying about kind of helping someone. It's good to accentuate it. Thank you, Ram. And now there is JB says, once again, great spiel, Bob. Thank you, and Kat, for making the Sunday morning meeting available for all of us. Much love and appreciation. Thank you, JB. And Stephen replies to Julia, I did the same while multitasking, but caught in 40 minutes. And Gudula says, yes, life looks after us. Deep down we know that, we remember that. And Vivek, thanks Kat for sharing Bob's life story. Opening, loosening up helps. As Bob says, life lives on life. And Dale Allison, suffering can be caused by wanting or expecting things to be different than they are. Yeah, that's a good summary. And JB, the more you resist stopping, the stronger it gets. It can be seen as a story, but if you drop the story and quit resisting, then there is a peace. It is always a story, an identity with it seems causes all misery. Exactly. Would you like to say a last word? Or anyone would like to?
Last word.
Yes, so thank you everyone. We are off to Sophia and we can continue discussion, or we can continue just,
Thanks, Bobby. Thanks, Kat. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.